Hey, good afternoon, Maggie.
Hello, Lucy Quist.
It's good to see you again, and I'm so glad we could make this time to have this conversation today, Maggie.
Oh, thank you for asking me. I'm excited.
I'm really glad you took it. Since that post I did on LinkedIn about coaching and the difference coaching has made to my life, I've had so many questions, so much feedback that I thought it'd be really good if you and I could catch up and really tell people more about coaching, more particularly about my experience with you, but more about coaching in general. So, again, thank you for making the time. And I'm sure that everybody watching today is going to be inspired by everything that we have to share. So, I'm going to dive straight in if you don't mind.
Okay.
Okay, great. So, my first question to you, Maggie, is what inspired you to become a coach?
Yeah, I love that question because I have to search in the memory because it was about 20 years ago now, plus 20 years ago,
Lots of
um,
experience.
when I was actually producing conferences and events for large corporations. And I used to walk through the buildings. And I can remember specifically one company, and people did not look happy. They looked like they were just getting through the day. And they were kind of like head down. And I'm like, oh, this isn't how life should be. And I thought, well, I'd taken this new kind of coaching information on board, and I'd primarily done it because I wanted to help the speakers more. I wanted to help people engage in an audience, which is still what I do. But what I realized was that there was more that could be done if I understood more how the mind worked. How is this mindset for success? How does it work? And so I did lots of training and lots of courses that I did. And then I somewhere along the line switched from being a producer of events to being a full-time coach. And because I want to see people be all that they could be, it's not the easiest career.
A very necessary one at that. A very necessary. I'm certainly thankful that you decided to become a coach. So I'm going to lead on to my next question. And I use the word lead intentionally because it is a bit of a leading question. It puts you on the spot a little bit. When we met in 2012 and I showed up in this room as one of your new coaches, what were your first impressions?
Yes. Okay. So I realized immediately that you had an engineering background. And you didn't even need to tell me. Because I mean, a lot of people that have either engineering or finance backgrounds. And what I notice is that when they practice, for example, I think we started with presentation coaching, if I remember
Yes, we
correctly,
did.
and we moved from that into the mindset for success coaching and the growth coaching. So we started with that, and you were already a good speaker. Let's be clear. You had a good presentation, but the detail in it went on forever. And because engineers, by their nature, want to explain how to do things in detail, because that's how engineering works, isn't it? You've got to put it all together in order to create it. But actually, what you need to do in a presentation is show people where you're going, show them the end result. So if you're building a house, for example, show them the house and what it looks like in the beginning. Don't go through all the detail of how you get there. And you picked that up very, very quickly, if I might add. So it was about cutting down some of the detail to make sure that the points and the stories had got across. And it was an amazing first meeting. I do remember it. It was longer than your average.
It was it was. And at the back of my mind, I was like, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? You must have seen the engineering brain calculating all of this.
I ignore that,
Um,
by the way. I, I'm focused
Identified
on
it
the
not.
outcome that you want, and that's it. So yeah.
Yeah, no, your description really brings to mind the very first time I gave a TEDx talk, and I still go back and watch it, and I remember at some point you gave me the feedback that the TEDx talk was very much, even though it was a talk and it was written and it was captured, I think I went into that very first talk with an engineering mindset of every single detail that had been captured had to be recreated, reproduced right down to the detail of the letter. So instead of telling a story, I was really busy telling a story I had written to the minutest detail of every single letter that was in it. So I think your earliest impressions ring true with me.
That is still a good talk, though.
It is. But I can see the evolution of my journey from then onwards.
And what was your best talk?
Oh gosh, there are so
You did
many.
so many.
There are so many now that I lose track. I think one of the most powerful, which we did prepare for, was when I gave um, the graduation speech at Ashesi University in 2016. I think it was the first time that I really fully, truly expressed in great detail how I felt about change in Ghana, change in Africa, change around the world, and the impacts young people can have. And that's probably one of the most impactful, not just on the people who heard it. Actually, I met someone at the weekend who reminded me that he was one of the people graduating that day.
Oh, wow.
It was awesome. And he came and took a photo. But more importantly, I think for me as the speaker, it almost kind of suddenly opened the floodgates and said, well, this is what you really want to talk about. Go out and talk about. And I think that talk is what would eventually evolve into what became the Bold New Normal. And
Yeah.
that Bold New Normal talk is absolutely one of my favorites. I go to that one more than any other to remind myself of mission.
Yeah. And I think if anyone wants to look it up on YouTube, it's a good structure.
Thank
It's a very good talk, but if you want to follow a structure, that's a really good one.
Awesome. Thank you.
So one of the things that people want to know, I think, from the questions that you got in is when to get a coach and that sort of how to progress with that. What would you say your take on that would be?
You know, it's an interesting question because at face value, I would say that at every stage of our career, there is a very clear value in coaching. Um, because for me, the focus of coaching, what I've gotten out of the 11 years that we worked together, is this ability to look beyond where I am and what I'm doing, look into the future, look into you create a vision of the future and work towards that vision that aligns with all the things that I am beyond just the job I'm doing. The job is important, and it's important to have a vision for your job that's beyond the next promotion, but what you can really, the value you can really create for your company. Because if we create more value, companies value us more. It just goes without saying. But then equally, there's more to us as individuals sometimes than the day job that we do, and we never explore it. So, in terms of when people should think about coaching, I would say that anyone who feels that they're ready to fully explore their potential should consider coaching. Now, for some, that moment will come later in their career, mid-career, but even if early in your career, you really feel that you're ready to make that stretch and that jump and that leap to really explore beyond, I would say go for coaching. It's very different from other interventions. It's a very specific personalized intervention that a great coach like yourself, Maggie, meets the individual where they are, as opposed to a generic, production line.
Yes, I agree. And I think it doesn't replace mentoring or sponsorship. It can run alongside, as you know.
Absolutely.
So they can all run along together.
They can and they should. So in all these years that I've been working with you, of course, I've always had mentors, I've always had sponsors. These are very important people within organizational structures to guide us on what is needed. In some ways, the boxes we need to tick, and also advocate for us. So the mentor, tells us what we need to demonstrate. The sponsor advocates for us. And I've been fortunate that sometimes it's been one and the same person who's done both for me in some organizations. But what coaching does is take you beyond that and almost prepare you beyond, way beyond that. And I think that's why they can all run concurrently and help you really expand as an individual.
And I think it was the ex-chairman of Google, Eric Schmidt, that always says, the coach gives you a perspective that you may otherwise never see. And what I always want to do is really just inspire people to jump out and try something. So if people are listening to this, jump out and try coaching, try something different, because it gives you that fresh perspective. Nothing opens the mind quite the same. And for me, it's I think there are three things that I must kind of do as part of who I am, as my vision, and that is inspire people to uncover who they really are. So there is the mindset shift that happens with coaching, and sometimes with people it's a little bit of healing a past mindset that doesn't work anymore, and not for everybody, but that comes into it. There's communication, and for me also there's the more, and you said it at the beginning, it's inspiring others to be all that you could be, because if they see you jump out
Absolutely.
you know, it's a bit like my good friend locally went to a personal trainer, and I haven't seen mine in a while. You know, I'd had a batch of personal training, and then I thought, no, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this. And I looked at how she was changing and how much more focused she was, and I went, okay, phone call to personal trainer.
Absolutely.
And there I was. He only had one slot, and it was early this morning, and I'm like, it was.
And you made it.
I made it, and it was so good. It set me up for the day, and it was different to trying to train myself. It really was. I'm pretty good in the gym, you know. I do go, and I do have the training kind of system, but that was something else. I got more energy, and that's what I like to think the coaching does too. It draws out more, pushes you further, and you get this extra energy. So not only do you benefit, but people around you, the business benefits as well.
100%. It allows you to give more of yourself to the business to create the value that I talked about. And, you know, it's interesting you use the analogy of a personal trainer, because I do find that I do so much better in the gym myself as part of a structured, organized class with someone actually coaching us and pushing us, as opposed to me saying, oh, I know how this machine works. I'll just get on it. And as you were speaking there, the thing that came to mind is that there's a reason why all of the absolutely amazing people that we see visibly are actually coached. And I know the idea of an athlete being coached rings true. Everyone knows about Usain Bolt's coach, and you know, for as an example. But what I found is that beyond the athletic coaching that people talk about for physical, optimizing physical performance, almost anybody that I can think of that I've read about, the Barack Obamas and co of the world, are all coached. And I found this absolutely fascinating, because you meet the person, you think, oh, I've met Barack Obama, but when you see them, you think, oh, this person's absolutely amazing. But then you think, but actually, hang on, this person says they had a coach, and they actually had someone inspiring them to be all of that they could be, shifting mindsets where they needed to shift their mindset, growing them in areas that they needed additional growth, and really allowing them to create value in their chosen field that is a step away from what everybody's doing as just the norm. I think that's absolutely amazing.
I agree. And I love the example of Usain Bolt's coach, because if you read anything about him or what Usain says about him, it's fantastic, because you know, the coach isn't going to be able to run your business for you or your job. What the coach does is be able to, as in Usain's Bolt coach, you can watch him and pick out the minute detail. So people I work with are already successful in their own right. You already had a stunning career, but you're looking for the minute detail that you can shift that will make a difference. You're looking to say something to do with jumping out that will make that difference. And then there are times when you're looking to say, keep your eye on the ball. And I think, just since we're using Usain Bolt as an example, there was a time when he and his coach agreed he got carried away with the sponsorship opportunities at the wrong time. So the Olympics was harder than it needed to be. Understandably, I mean, it must be, you know, a real kind of a draw to actually go out there and do all these things. But your eyes got to be on the number one ball for you at that time.
Yes.
And the coach is going to spot that. And I think the other thing we perhaps should say is you don't have to work with a coach for 11 years, and you haven't worked with me permanently for
No,
11 years
exactly.
by
This is
any means.
important.
It's
This
in
is
small
important.
batches.
Yes.
And it comes along, and it kind of, we focus on a bit more, and it's to take in a new a direction, or just keep on track with the key vision. And I think that's probably important.
Yeah, and I'd enrich that and say, yes, while it's been in batches, I think the most important times of our relationship in terms of you coaching me is every time there's been a transition. And I don't mean even a transition in terms of company, but even in terms of a transition within the same company. It's been so important that we've had that coaching time where, yes, you're right, allow me to, keep me focused on the ultimate goal and vision, but also be able to focus my mind around immediately what's in front of me, what part of the vision now translates into where you are today, and what value are you going to create today that stands out. So you're right, it's been in chunks, but I found that every time there's actually been that point of me thinking about something new or moving into something new, the coaching has really helped pull everything together and keep my mind focused on those outcomes that I want to achieve and stay consistent about it. So I think that's another thing about coaching. I think it can create a consistency in your delivery that eventually comes across very, very naturally. We talk about outcomes of coaching. I think that, as you described them, when you first met me, thinking in engineering mode and detail mode, and I think I was, if I should say so, good at what I was doing, but very, very technical about it. And I would tell stories from a leadership point of view in very technical speak. But for me personally, part of my leadership journey and what's come out of coaching is the ability to translate what I'm thinking into the right stories that move people to actually then be inspired to do the best of what they are doing or be the best of themselves. And so that ability to go from an idea or vision to tell a story that moves people move forward, which I guess is why we have the bold new normal, to be honest, because it doesn't work without me telling the stories, is bringing out a part of me. And I touched on it briefly in the article, but this ability to tell stories and connect with people and really go without trying to give them all of the logic of an engineer is definitely a huge outcome for me from a coaching point of view.
Yes, and I love the bold new normal. I tuned in last year remotely, and even though I talked to you in the build up of it, I really enjoyed it. I got a lot out of it. So I would encourage anyone to just get your bum on the seat in that event in any way that you can, or online, whatever it is that you can do, because there was so much in it last year, and I know you're going to take it forward more this year.
Absolutely.
As well. So,
absolutely.
I learned a lot from it last year.
Thank you.
And I love
a little bit back from the coachee.
I love all of the speakers. You have different people.
Awesome. No, we have a brilliant lineup, and I will be sharing more and more about their details in the next few weeks, but a brilliant lineup this year of speakers as well.
And I think just to say about the coaching is think about what you want as an ideal outcome. Are you fulfilling your potential? Yes. Don't think too much about how the coaching works. Otherwise, they're going back to too much detail. Trust.
Yes.
Trust me, if you share with me where you'd like to be, I will point you in the right direction. If it's just a chat just have a chat. But preferably come on board for some coaching. And it's about closing those gaps for you and not worrying too much about how often we speak. We'll figure it out together, and how often we have to do exercises or work to relate to the coaching. It's about the outcome first. Think yes. about where you want to be first, and we'll design the rest that works for the person from there.
Absolutely. And I'm going to, digress a tiny bit and touch on what coaching means beyond career, because one of the things I found is that as a parent and as someone who meets a lot of young people who come to me for guidance and so on, I have found that what I've learned from coaching, learned from working with you, has also given me tools to engage others. So we've talked a lot around a career point of view, but I feel well equipped when I'm dealing with someone who's in school and someone who's 15 or 18, and they're kid, or they're a very young person, and thinking, do I even want a career in the first place? And I've had this. I've had maybe friends send their child over, or even my own children, telling them about the vision. This idea of having a vision for me is paramount. But how do you go about having a vision? How do you craft a vision? How do you think about a vision? Why is a vision even important? So I think the other benefit of coaching is our ability to take what we learn and what I have learned into all aspects of our lives and be even more impactful when it comes to the people around us.
Oh, I agree. I don't see how you can separate. We are holistic beings. It's part of the whole. I think we've got to design a future for ourselves which fits in every regard. So people often ask me that, if the company's paying for the coaching, can we talk about personal stuff? How can you not?
It's all of you. It is the whole of you that the coaching will impact, for sure. Not possible without it.
Yeah. I think it's a worthy investment, but then I would say that.
I think you would say that. However, I will definitively say so, that it's been a worthwhile investment. And when I say investment, not just in sort of the actual investment, financial investment, but the time spent on coaching, the exercises that you go through. Personally, I have notebooks and I still refer to them. I'm like, I remember we discussed X. I'm going to go back and reference. It's the exercises, the work that you do, the ability to walk into the office in the morning and actually do a mind clear and focus exercise before the day starts. Right. And I'm standing there, I'm looking out the window, and someone may say, oh, she's looking out the window. No, I'm spending a minute or two clearing my head through the exercises that I know how to do to prepare for the day that lies ahead. And it's invaluable.
I love that. And people tell me that, they use the tools all the time, and there's nothing better than that. And there's nothing better than if they pass them on. I always felt with the coaching, it shouldn't stop just with the individual. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you've taken that to beyond with the old new normal, way beyond.
Yes.
But I think it's worthy of passing it on.
Absolutely.
And if anyone can do it, I encourage them alongside the coaching to actually coach somebody else as well, if they've got the capacity to do that. But at least to find ways of passing on what they're learning as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Maggie, for me, I know that sometimes coaching can be several leaders is their best kept secret. I'm not one for secrets. I really wanted people to hear about a huge aspect of my progress and success that maybe people don't talk about much. People always talk about the next big job, and it's nice to see it in the headlines, but not the work that goes on in the background. And so for me, I really wanted to not only share the work that we've done, which is hence the article, but also the opportunity to explain in greater detail today was important to me, because I really want to be as candid as possible. To your point, if the goal is to inspire people, then people need to know all that creates inspiration for me as an individual. While I wrote broadly about coaching, I would highly recommend, I've got a little bee here, it's gone. I would highly recommend to anyone who really wants to make that shift in career and feel ready to contact you. And I say this, unashamedly, very directly, but please do reach out to Maggie if you've taken the time to watch this, and have a conversation directly, because I know the difference coaching with you, Maggie, has made in my career, and I'd love for other people to have the same benefit. It's not for me to hold on just for myself.
Thank you very much. I look forward to a diary full of conversations and even more clients in my diary. So that would be absolutely amazing, because it is what I'm passionate about. I think you have to get up in the morning and do something that you're passionate about.
100%.
And this for me is it. So thank you very, very much. I have a feeling that you're going to get even more questions now.
I'm open. I'm open to as many questions as possible, more than open. If we really want to
Likewise.
shift the world, we shift by starting with the individual, with the individual's mind, the individual's potential, all of about the individual. So open to questions, but I also have pointed them to you. So please do send questions to Maggie. I really enjoyed this, Maggie. This has been so much fun getting the opportunity to do this with you.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And let's do it again sometime soon.
Very much so. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Lucy.